Garmin Stone Cold Fishing with Steve Pennaz and Danny Thompson starts right now.
Hey guys, welcome to Garmin Stone Cold Fishing. The guy on my right now is somebody you probably don't recognize because he's been in a tree stand since August, July, September. I mean, Danny Thompson, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to finally make it this week. You know, last week was a little bit of a travel week and kind of getting back into the swing of things. So, you know, here we are. I'm actually packing my bags and getting ready as we speak. I'm going to be heading out on the ice next week. So I've thrown right into the mix, I guess, here.
You know what's interesting? I had a conversation with one of our guests from next week who's been fishing a lot of the Western lakes, and he said that you've got to get on Henry's Lake, which is like 30 miles south of me right now. And he caught a 16-pound rainbow there last year. He had a state record brook trout. He didn't realize it until after he let it go. And so I'm going to have some reports from the next week or two from Henry's Lake, Idaho, because it just sounds too good to be true. But hey, we got a great show tonight. I'm actually excited, guys. We've got a lot of prizes to give away. We've got some great guests coming on board, and it's just going to be a ton of fun. But before we get started, I want to remind everybody that Min Fish, the group that's really fighting for anglers and the businesses to support us in Minnesota, is having the world's greatest ice fishing auction. And get this, there's over 71 items up for sale right now, including an ice castle fish house, some wonderful trips, including a great fly-in lake trout trip to Baker's Narrows up in Saskatchewan, and just tons of augers, shelters. There's even a Garmin LiveScope Plus system with a lithium battery up for bidding this year. So if you guys haven't been on there, check it out after the show tonight. Check out min-fish.com and click on the red auction button. It should be phenomenal. Hey, Danny, we got some great guests tonight. Do you want to take a run through them?
Yeah, so, you know, I think starting off, we're going to have Jeremy Smith, which is going to be awesome. I mean, just truly a expert in the fishing business and such a great person, you know, just to be with. But he's going to kind of talk to us about barotrauma, which is obviously a big thing. And, you know, especially as we kind of come into this new, so to speak, you know, generation of fishermen, I think this is an important topic. And then we've got Aaron Warva, who's from Berkley, and he's going to be talking to us about some baits, which is going to be kind of exciting. And, you know, it's always fun to talk baits, and, you know, everybody's got their own little things they like. So I think that's always kind of a fun topic to talk about. And then, of course, Amy Munsinger is going to be coming to us. And, you know, she fishes a lot of tournaments. And, you know, what's cool, she really kind of dives into the soft plastics. And, you know, obviously soft plastics is such a big piece of our fishing, you know, strategy and technique in the summer. But really bringing that to hard water, I think that's something that's definitely underutilized and something that can be extremely efficient and effective on the ice. So I think that'll be kind of a fun thing to talk about. And then we've got Greg Fisher from Vados just down the road from me here. You know, really just kind of one of those iconic places in the state of Minnesota and really in the state of fishing. And so we're going to hear from him and talking about bait. And then, of course, Nick Cox. Unfortunately, we have to talk to him from Razr Augers. So I seen he was trying to do a software update today on one of his Garmin ice fishing bundles. So I'm sure we'll be hearing from him today. But we'll have him there at the end. So lots of good guests tonight. I think this is going to be a great way to kind of get us, you know, get me kicked off on the live show season and, you know, our second show that we've done so far. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. Hey guys, we're going to be giving away, we got 4 prize packs tonight. And Chad, will you walk everybody through these prize packs for us?
Tons to give away, Steve. And then the comment bar is already kind of off the charts. We're pushing 100 and we just barely got started. But so comment, like the show, share the show. That gets you qualified for the prizes. Again, tonight we're going to pick 3 names to get in the hat for the Garmin LiveScope Plus bundle, which we'll give away at the end of the year. We're also going to pick 2 more names tonight for the Razr Synthetic Ultra or Synthetic Light Auger, either a 6 or an 8 incher. So it'll be 4 names, and we're going to pick that winner at the end of tonight's show. Then we're also going to give away a great tackle pack from Berkley. some of their newest baits. Really good stuff. There's one of them there. The finisher is in that, the power switch is in that, and the jack, which is a new one. I can't wait to get my hands on that guy. And then we're also going to give away some Fish Monkey socks tonight. So tons and tons of prizes. And again, I'm going to have my hands full like last week. I can see that already, Steve. The comments are just flying in here. So it's going to be fun.
You know, it's awesome. Hey, I got a text last night from a buddy of mine who's on the ice. He had a 21-inch bass, and then he had a 21-inch walleye last night. He caught him. He wouldn't tell me what lake he was on, but he was in Minnesota. I'm excited. The ice fishing season is here, guys. And a couple things. Get out and get out often, but also be safe here in this early ice period. I've been through the ice a few times. The last time I was on it was on purpose. We were doing a video. And I'll tell you what, when you bob over your head, it is darn scary. I don't care if you have a life jacket on and ropes and people are there to support you. So just be safe in this early season, but get out and have some fun. So should be fun. Hey, our first guest tonight is Jeremy Smith with Linder Media. And I'm sure if you've been kind of looking around on the fishing business the last couple of years, hey, Jeremy, welcome to the show tonight. The Linder Media worked with the Minnesota DNR to do a barotrauma study. And Jeremy, as I understand it, you guys did this over 2 different winters on how many different lakes?
Yeah, this is a really cool deal. So this study was which a group I'm not part of. It's the Panfish group. So Minnesota DNR involves stakeholders in a number of different work groups is what they're called. So they're typically species specific. So there's one for panfish, bass, northern pike, muskie, walleye. There's a technology group as well that I'm a member of. And so the panfish group was really concerned about the effects of barotrauma on crappies in the wintertime. So they did a preliminary study 2 winters ago on a small lake in northern Minnesota and learned a number of details about how they conducted that research and followed it up again this last winter. So this was a great collaboration with stakeholders who wanted to learn about what was happening in the resource in combination with the agency to get some idea on what's happening to crappies when we catch them out of really deep water through the ice.
So everybody, if you don't know what barotrauma is, it's really the effects that a fish has after it gets caught in deep water. And here's a fish that's actually suffering from barotrauma. You can see the gills. There's some blood in the mouth area. The gills are open. The stomach's extended because the air bladder has too much pressure in it from the change in pressure from coming out of deeper water. And Jeremy, one of the things that surprised me about the study was barotrauma doesn't necessarily happen in real deep water, like 40, 50 feet. It'll actually start affecting fish in 20, 25, 30 feet of water. And what are some of the things that you noticed at the various depths during your study?
Yeah, well, I think one of the takeaways from it was one is you don't know the history of where a fish has been. So you might catch a fish in 18 feet of water. That's not to say that fish wasn't in 30 feet of water 5 minutes ago, right? So these fish do take a lot of time. It's a gas exchange that happens through their swim bladder, through their bloodstream to regulate their buoyancy. So it can take a lot of time for a fish that's in deep water to be able to basically normalize under the conditions at the surface. So there's a lot of stress that happens. And what we saw was that about a third of the fish we caught in both cases seemed to die right away after being caught. About a third seemed to have some delayed mortality, and about a third seemed to be okay. And so the first round we did, we caught the fish, we put them in a vertical structure, a vertical pen, and let the fish kind of go back down. And then this last round we did, we put some in a vertical pen where we caught them and just put them back in the pen. And then we used another pen where we actually used a descending device to try to get them back to the depth or the pressure that they were in. And then the third was just using forward-facing sonar to watch the fish once they were released. So we had 3 forward-facing sonar units trying to follow the fish around. And I haven't seen the published results from this last one, but it appears as though the results just from being on the ice, not dialing in these results, but just as an observer, it seemed like the results were the same, whether they were just caught and released, caught and descending device was used, or we watched them on forward facing sonars. There's a pretty high degree of mortality for fish that are caught. It seems like in that, 25 feet of water or deeper.
Here's some information that was Brad Dockin had shared. I think this was from the 2023 portion of the study, but you look at the left side, it's the depth was 21, 24, and 32 feet. And you see the difference in the trauma from the mild trauma to, the severe trauma, where they had no severe trauma in the 20 or 21 or 24, but when you get up to 32, and then you see the recovery rates, they went from 8% mortality at 24 feet down to 32% mortality. As an angler, it really it's one of those situations where we need to take responsibility and say, hey, if we're going to target fish in that deeper water, that 25, 30, 32, 35 feet of water, and the limit is 10 crappies, if we're catching more than 10, we're really probably exceeding the limit on this. And that kind of makes sense. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to approach it, Steve, is that you just look at it as a harvest opportunity, right? So, I mean, these fish are there. They're relatively easy to catch, given the conditions, and it's a great opportunity to go out and catch fish. And if you want to go catch fish and eat fish, have at it, man. It's a great chance to do that, but don't plan on spending the day out there. I mean, the thing with it is, when I look at it, a lot of times I'll go out there with if I'm going to fish crappies in a 30, 40 foot basin, I might go out there with the size 7 jig and wrap or something big, just to kind of make the experience last a little bit longer. Cause that if you put something small down, you're going to catch right away. Right. So, and then if you get your 5 fish or whatever the limit is, you're done. So, however you want to look at it, but just view it as a harvest opportunity, not a recreational sport fishing opportunity.
Hey, Jeremy, one question came through and it said, can I reel the fish up slow? Will that help? And I guess to that point, is there anything the angler can do to minimize this? Or is it literally just, let's look at it as like a harvest opportunity, like you said?
So I would say, yeah, you look at it a harvest opportunity, like I said. So as I alluded to before, how a crappie, they're not like a lake trout that have that duct that they can expel the air. And then there's more to barotrauma than just the pressure in their air bladder, right? There's capillaries that burst and all these things that happen. But for them to achieve buoyancy, they have to let the gas escape from their air bladder through the bloodstream and expel it through their bloodstream. So it's a many hours long process for them to do that. So the answer is no, you can't reel slow enough to make any difference. So you might in fact be better off. I'm not saying that this is what you should do, but you might be better off just to reel it up really quick and get it back down really fast. But at the same time, when you look at what happens to these fish, you just don't know. There's a really high risk of mortality anytime you're targeting crappies in particular, at least in the case that we looked at in deeper water.
You know what, though, Jeremy, this isn't just a crappie question. I mean, I've run into situations where you're fishing some of the deep humps on, say, Walker Bay, on Leech Lake, or even some of the humps on Winnie or other bodies of water, where if you're catching walleyes in 35 feet of water or 30 feet of water, you're running into the same situation with barotrauma. So this isn't just a crappie exclusive type of thing that we need to be aware of.
No, it's not. I just saw a question about fizzing, and so I'm certainly not a fizzing expert. And I'm going to just throw this little side note in. This is from James Moore. I just saw his name pop up. Is that we did in one round, we fizzed 7 crappies we caught like 50 some crappies. We fizzed 7, and 7 of the 7 crappies died. And this is, however, you have to consider this, that once you fizz them and we release them in 40 feet of water, they're going to sink. And so they actually they can't regulate buoyancy at that point. So they're having more pressure on them than they did probably previously from where they were caught. So I'm not saying fizzing doesn't work. Fizzing leads to a number of issues. It could be infection, a number of things, but also it would probably be a better idea. And I'm not suggesting you should fizz at all, but if you did fizz, you should not release the fish into deep water. It should probably go into shallower water where the pressure won't, could really stress the fish out. So you just have to picture that 40 feet of pressure is now just pushing down on the fish, and it is no longer has any ability to maintain buoyancy once it's been fizzed.
Well, this has been great information, Jeremy. If anybody wants to follow up on things, when do you see the study information coming out on last year's tests?
Yeah, we're going to kick it out here. I think it's in January. So pretty quick here on Angling Buzz. So you could look at anglingbuzz.com or Angling Buzz's YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see that information. And as well, the Minnesota DNR will be kicking out stuff. And I believe Hunt Fish Forever also kicked out a video regarding this. So there's a lot. This has been well publicized, and it's certainly worth looking at and something to consider this season on the ice.
That's awesome. Hey, we're going to let you go. I do want to point out that Jeremy had just joined the board of Min-Fish or minfish.com or Min-Fish. So I want to congratulate him and thank him for his service to all anglers. So Jeremy, have a great night. Appreciate you coming on tonight. It's good information. I mean, I'll never forget, we were lake trout fishing, and as he mentioned, they have the ability to actually expel air from their bladder. I mean, you and I had a chance to fish Tazen Lake together a couple of summers ago, and we could tell the size of a lake trout based on the size of the air bubbles coming up from the fish from 100 feet of water. And when we had basketball-sized bubbles, we knew we had some giant fish on. But I'll never forget fishing lake trout and catching probably a 5 to 7 pound walleye in 90 feet of water. When I brought that fish up, his eyes were out here and he was stiff as a board. So barotrauma is one of those things that happens. It happens on a lot of different lakes, and we just need to be aware of it. And again, I think our solution for most of this is if we're going to fish that deep water, take your limit and skedaddle if you can. So,
well, and I think
go ahead, Danny.
I think it's a cool thing that's kind of going on, Steve, is, here we are in the day of technology and all this stuff. And it's like, there's still so much we don't know about what the fish do and what happens with our impact on these fish. And so I think it's something cool to consider, but I think it's also kind of great to see the technology piece, me being the Garmin guy, and how we can use this technology to make us better, more conservative anglers in the future. So I think there's a lot of great stuff to come in the future, not just on barotrauma, but also, what we know about fish and our impact on them.
I agree 100%. And I think that one of the things I love about LiveScope is it's taught me a lot about fish behavior in relations to lures and just boat pressure and everything. So it's been a ton of fun on that. Here, our next guest tonight is Aaron Wavra, who works for Berkley Tackle. He has that job that everyone out here dreams they had. I mean, how would you like to be in an office that was loaded with baits behind you like him right now? So, hey, Aaron, thank you for joining us tonight. How you doing? Uh-oh, can't hear you.
Oh, gentlemen,
There we
great. How can you hear me fine right now?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, excellent. How are you fellas?
Good.
That
Hey,
was a pretty cool conversation.
Oh, that's pretty interesting stuff. Hey, you guys have come out with a number of dynamite baits the last couple of years. Before we get into a couple of the lures, I want to ask you, for someone that's just coming in off the street, what does the timeline look when you guys are developing new lures? Take the Jack, for example. Walk us through how that bait was developed and how long did it take to get to where it is right now?
Yeah, I would say the quickest path possible with all hands on deck and really having a solid plan with solid procurement and distribution and everything in place is about 12 months. I mean, there's sometimes when we can get there a little bit quicker, but that's probably the quickest. More common is 18 months to 24 months, sometimes maybe even a little longer when we're looking at things like what I call blue sky technology. Like if we're opening up a technique, like the power switch or the finisher or something like we've done in the last couple of years, it's going to be a little bit longer because we're really needing to understand everything about the bait as well as those techniques and trying to foresee how the angler is going to be using the product. On something like the Jack, that bait was around more like 16 to 18 months where we had a pretty clean line of sight of what we wanted to accomplish with the bait. The techniques that are being used around that style of bait are well established. We have key opinion leaders in place that know exactly how they want to use the bait. We can get there a little bit quicker. But
So walk us through, let's start with the finisher, because here's a bait that looks so simple when you first look at it, but then you start looking at some of the things where it's got the flat bottom on it. Kind of walk us through what led you to, to create this bait, and what were you looking for when you were trying to develop it?
Yeah, so this bait was one of those kind of magical baits. This one actually was sitting on the back burner for about 3 or 4 years. We were looking at getting into the glide bait side of the business. We had the power switch that we had launched the year before. That was launched in response to the forward-facing sonar trends that were going in. Really, the aha moment there was the understanding. I'm looking at the turkeys and stuff behind you, Danny. The understanding of when the angler can now see the fish out in front of it, you as an angler have the opportunity just in time or in real time to react to what you're seeing on the screen in front of you. So like turkey hunting, when you have the turkey out in the field and you're calling at it, you can change your cadence, you can change what's going on there. So we needed to create a bait that when anglers could see that fish, they could react to that bait in real time and give it more of what it's liking and less of what it's disliking. And that was kind of the reason behind the design and how the finisher came. The power switch was our first real go at giving the angler control when fishing a bait and being allowed to get, a precision cast, drop it down really quick and control it, pause the fall and keep that bait out away from the boat. So the power switch, like the finisher, has that kind of flat bottom, the pull point location, and the way that the bait is designed, it allows that to happen. So taking what we knew on the power switch, we put it into the finisher. This one acts in a few different ways. It acts like a glide bait, like the Midwest walleye guys know. Somebody had mentioned like a Johnny Dart, or even how our snap jigs perform. How a glide bait would typically perform, either through the ice or even open water casting, where it's fast and it's super lateral darting. But taking that and then being able to pause it and really finesse it with that flat bottom, when you pull the line tight, you can really flatten that bait out and keep it hovering in the water, unlike any other baits that were ever really built before it. With that style of a bait. And then if you want to drop it down to the bottom again, you can real quick, or you can pick it back up. So the flat bottom, the way that the back is curved, the way that the pull point is oriented, all of the different things in regards to the design of this bait were designed with specific angler controls in mind, which again, that's a whole different way of thinking about bait development.
So the finisher, was interesting is when the finisher showed up in my back door and I had a chance to fish it, one of the first things I did was went out and fished trout with it. And I was catching these 22 to 24 inch brown trout out here in the Madison River, part of one of the reservoirs out here. And I talked to a guy who was on one of the Western reservoirs, Flaming Gorge. He had the new number 5 just came out. The number 5 is what, 1.5 inches long or whatever. Yeah, he dropped it down on the first mark he saw, and he hooked and caught a 20-pound lake trout on the first drop he ever used it. And my impression with the finishers, this was my first drop with it. That's a 27-inch walleye, and you can see he kind of liked it. So it's one of these unique baits. You can fish it like a glide bait. But the other thing is you can actually keep it above the bottom and in open water and swim it back with a walk the dog presentation and keep it above the fish. But it's also a dynamite ice fishing bait. And if you guys haven't tried it, I've seen a couple comments already. It's one of those baits that does it all in a lot of different situations. So it's a really a good one to check out if you haven't. And when did the size 5 come out finally?
The size 5 came along with all 3 sizes when we launched it this past January. So this coming January would be almost a year now that we launched it. We launched it, coming off of that NASA event we did around the forward-facing baits, just really kind of trying to showcase and highlight the amount of science, technology, and experience and expertise that we put behind those 3 baits that we launched from a forward-facing sonar standpoint. But the cool part, especially for ice fishing guys, is what the forward-facing or the open water anglers now had an opportunity is what the ice guys could see for years, right?
Mhm.
Is, you know, that's how they've fished for years with Vexilars and flashers, is they can see the fish coming in, they can see if it's liking or disliking, right? So now you have this opportunity to take what ice anglers have seen and known, put it out in front of the boat. So that's why you see some of these kind of ice oriented baits like you're talking about kind of shining in these angler controlled situations. So yeah, I mean, the 5 came out with the 7 and the 9 at the same time. It was probably a little bit of a lagger when it came to people seeing it and kind of finding it, but it's a little bit of a shining star in that bunch.
We're running out of time real quick, but this power switch, guys, in the 1 3/4 has been a dynamite panfish bait. I will actually put a waxworm or a maggot on there and fish it, but this has been just a dynamite panfish bait, and you'll be surprised how many bass and walleyes you'll catch in these smaller sizes, but you can go larger. Hey, before we let you go, Aaron, you guys came out with the new Jack.
Yeah.
It's a ripping bait that you're going to throw open water for walleyes, but if you haven't used this style of bait in through the ice, it's a dynamite bait for big walleyes. It's a dynamite bait for big pike. And one of the things I've noticed, especially when you're fishing live scope in a down mode, when you have these fish that are coming in 15, 20 feet away from the bait, and those ones that are swimming past you, these are the types of baits that are going to move those fish from 10, 15 feet away from the hole to the hole.
Yeah.
And then it's your goal to get them to bite. But these things excel at bringing fish in.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, especially some of the big pike guys up on lakes like Red and things, are using these style baits to draw pike in to their live bait situation. So it's really not just a bait that's for open water. This is one of those ones I tie on all the time.
Yeah, high vibration, high rattles, and then this one has a dual flash point. So you can see it on the back here. It's getting multiple flash points, which is going to call in fish, especially in those clear, stiller water situations.
That's awesome. Hey, Aaron, we got to let you go, but thank you for coming on tonight. Great baits. You guys are just kicking it right now, and it's so fun to get out and be able to fish these baits that are so productive and so much fun to produce. And I just want to say thanks for your time tonight.
Yes, thank you, and thank you to everybody that's on.
Yeah,
that's awesome. You know, Danny, the new Jack, I haven't had a chance to fish that. I was looking for it last summer, but this is one of those baits that I use a lot in open water or and through the ice. And a lot of the guys that are fishing like Winnipeg and things, that's the style baits that you're using.
Well, and what's cool, Steve, you hold that package up, and right on that package it says forward-facing sonar optimized. And I think that's a cool thing about Pure Fishing in Berkley right now is, they're adjusting with the technique that people are fishing and really, coming out with some cutting-edge things like the finisher and the power switch, and then of course making them both ice and summer baits has been just awesome. I mean, I don't know that I fished with anything but a power switch last winter. I mean, it's an absolute, crappie killer on the ice. I absolutely love that bait. So, kudos to those guys for kind of leading the business right now in baits for sure.
Yeah. Hey, I want to bring in our next guest, Nick Cox, president of Razr Power. They make some phenomenal augers, the Razr, different ones. Hey, Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good. I heard that some shots were fired earlier when I didn't have a mic. It's nice to see Danny made it out of the woods and got a haircut.
Danny said he was good. Good comeback. Good comeback. If you two have something to talk about, you can do it after the show, all right? Hey, Nick, I want to talk to you a couple things. One, I really want to kind of catch up on what's going on with Razr augers, but two, I want to walk people through. There are so many different blade options out there for augers right now, and there's some great choices for this type of situation. There's some great choices for these other situations. And so I want to go through that kind of first, but walk us through some of your new products right now and what's been very successful for you.
Yeah. So thank you for having me, by the way. In the last couple of years, we have focused strictly on just reducing the weight of our augers. So in the first couple of years of our, infancy of Razr ice augers, we had focused on our Scout models and metal models, which hooked up directly to brushless drills that were meant for brushless drills. And people loved them. But one thing they always said is, hey, we want to go lighter. We want to go lighter. So we have launched our Synthetic Ultra and our Synthetic Light models. Those are available in 6 and 8 inch sizes. They are phenomenal. They're under 6 pounds for a full size auger, down to 4 pounds for, you know, a Razr Synthetic Light 6-inch. But ultimately, we're focused solely on the brushless drill market. We think that's the future of ice augers in general. And we're focused on getting lighter and just doing what we do and doing it as best we can, you know, drilling holes fast.
Yeah. So so if somebody's new to the brushless motors, say you run an 18 volt, typically how many inches of ice are you going to be able to cut on a given day under a single charger with a single battery?
Yeah. So it's a really subjective question, just because, you know, it's going to depend on your battery size and the conditions for that day, the temperature, etc. But if you were just to generically answer it and say, if you're, say, using an 8-inch ice auger on a 5 amp hour battery, you're probably going to get, you know, 30 holes, you know, and 20 inches of ice. But, you know, most of these drill kits nowadays, they come with 1 or 2 batteries. They'll always include an extra battery as like a Black Friday or Cyber Monday special. So you'll never, you know, typically you'll never run out of battery, especially like with Garmin. You're able to kind of just, you know, target where you're fishing more than just, you know, ice trolling and just drilling endless amounts of holes. So
hey Nick, like how much of a difference, you know, you talk, it's subjective obviously, and it's the same as battery life on electronics, but you know, let's say I take that battery off my auger and throw it in my coat or keep it in the house. I mean, is there something to keeping that battery warm versus laying it out on the ice all day long? I mean,
well,
does that help?
you know, that's a good question. In extreme lows and extreme temperature situations, yeah, anything with a battery is going to, you know, be affected. Look, I mean, you know, $90,000 trucks aren't starting when it's 35 below, right? So you can imagine all of your electronics are impacted, but that's where you can kind of play with, you know, you go from a 5 amp hour battery up to something like a 12 amp hour battery. You've got more capacity. The weather is less impactful on it. Milwaukee's just released a new battery series called the Forge. It's a self-heating battery. It doesn't require you to put it in a cooler or in your trench coat or wherever you're going. So, I mean, cold does affect it. But, you know, on a typical day where it would affect it, guys aren't going to be outside. They're going to drill a few holes and probably get inside, you know, their shelter or their fish house and kind of hunker down as long as there's a bite going.
Yeah.
So Nick, my favorite auger size was 7. Why don't you offer 7?
We do offer 7. So we are the only ice auger company to offer a 7-inch auger. And that is true for 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8-inch in all of our Scout models. So a metal auger, 5-year warranty, extremely great price point for consumers, but we do offer that 7-inch model in the Scout that hooks right up to the brushless drill.
So what's your most popular size that you sell?
I would say just traditionally going back on what anglers are used to buying, we find ourselves in that category of 6 to 8-inch, because for years, auger companies that were sourcing, you know, these units, they're going to get the most popular sizes. That's what the molds were available for, right? 6 and 8-inch and 10-inch holes. So I would say, you know, 8-inch and then you go down to 6. But the longer we've had these 4s and these 5s and these 7s on the market, the more people are open to seeing how they can use a 4-inch auger, for example, with a camera or checking ice versus using a chisel. So it's, you know, it's an organic crowd. We can't educate everybody every single day, but the more people see these smaller augers out there, the more they're kind of getting interested in them.
Will my LVS 34 transducer fit down that 7-inch hole?
You know, hey, this is what I tell people, right? You know, lots of things can go down a 7-inch hole, but when you get into thick ice, getting it up and getting it out gets a little tricky. So I just say, look, if that's the unit you're fishing with, stick with an 8-inch. My 32, I can go 6-inch unit all day long. So that's just one thing to be cognizant of if you're trying to pair that auger with one of these live sonar bottoms.
Hey, before we run out of time, I want to do a kind of a 101 on blades. So let's start off with the base blades, which are the flat blades. Talk a little bit about the flat blades.
Yeah, so this is just your basic ice auger blade. It's widely available. Usually when you see ice auger brands, they're carrying this type of blade. This blade is very simple to manufacture. We only use the flat blade on our hand augers. You know, they require a little bit of downward pressure from the user to get the hole going, but they do shave really nice layer by layer. They're just not as quick as our other blades, which are, our curved and our pro curved blades.
Awesome. And then we're going to move into your curved blades.
Yep. So those are our curved blades. Those are available on our Scout models. They're available on our synthetic light models. 4 through 8 inch hole sizes. What you see there is you've got a smooth cutting edge. And that's just basically your traditional curved style blade. It's going to draw the blade style and the curved head versus a flat blade. This is going to draw the auger through the ice. It's just shaving layer by layer, and the tool is doing most of the work versus, on a flat blade system, the user's having to kind of push down to get that auger to engage. A curved style bit is more like a deck screw, right? It's just going to, once you get it started, it's just going to go ahead and suck through the ice itself.
So I want people to take a look at the edge of this blade real quickly. And can you show, if we point, you can look on the left side in the upper left of the blade, you can see the bend in the blade, but then also notice the leading edge of the blade. It's a straight line. It's a straight blade. But when you move into the next style of blade, you'll notice it still has that bend in the corner, but talk about the grooves on the lead blade and what purpose do they serve?
Yeah, so on our synthetic ultra models, and this is, a model right here that I was using the last couple of years, what you've got is you've got that serrated edge, right? So like Steve said, it's not just a smooth edge across it. What that's going to do essentially is if you're fishing in the Dakotas or you're fishing in debris or sand swept ice, which can happen anywhere when we're getting lucky enough to have a winter where guys can drive out on the ice or anglers can drive out there, they're pulling road grime off the ice that's moving around. If you hit a grain of sand or something with a Razr Pro Curve blade along this cutting edge, it's basically going to follow the cutting edge till it hits one of the serrations, and then it's going to bump off to the back of the blade. So it's not going to dull the entire cutting edge of your blade, and that is one of the benefits of a Pro Curve blade with serrations. It does make the auger and the blade and the experience just a little bit more durable. So, and one thing that's unique is you can upgrade, for the most part, anywhere from 6, 7, and 8 inch augers. You can upgrade any of those Scouts or lights to our Pro Curve blades. They come with the smooth edge blades, but when it's time to change them, say you need a set in a season or two, you go ahead and you can upgrade your blades. You get a little extra life out of them.
That's awesome. Hey, now, one quick question. I know you get to ask this a lot, but self-sharpening blades, is it possible?
Well, I would say, we are one company out there that with curved blades, once you purchase this product, it's your ice auger, it's your blades. We're not going to void your warranty should you need to sharpen them. That's all about your experience. We sell blades, and our MSRP on our blades is lower than our competitors for the most part. So when you think of curved blades, it's not like you're going to go in the store and have to spend $70 on a set of blades. Our blades are running for an 8 inch, say around $40, $45. You can get them sharpened. It's not going to void your warranty, but you need to find somebody that can sharpen curved blades. And there's really only one way to do it. And it's if you have, or that sharpener has the jig to do it. And it gets complex, but there's only 2 companies in the world that make this style blade. And so they aren't very easy to basically remanufacture or resharpen just because of the curvature to them. So it would be, and by the time you end up taking them off, packaging them up, mailing them off, getting them back, you're probably at the set of a new set of blades for us anyways. So
just get them.
Yeah, just get them. Just load up 1 or 2 sets, good for a couple years. You don't have to switch your auger blades every year with Razr. If you have to start pushing down on the auger, then it's time to replace the blades.
Yeah, a lot of times my experience with Razr is you hold up the auger.
Yeah, because it's drawing you down, so you don't want to push down at the end. You want to just kind of cradle it.
Yeah. So, Nick, if somebody wants to learn more about Razr augers, what's your website?
Oh, come on down and check us out at razoriceaugers.com. And then we're looking forward to being at the St. Paul and the Oshkosh show coming up.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for joining us tonight. And we're giving away an auger tonight. So one lucky listener is gonna get a chance to qualify. So we're going to have 4 names in the hat, and Sir Chad Cool is going to pick the winner here at the end of the show. So if you guys can, you'll get a personal package right from Nick. So Nick, thanks for coming on tonight, and great to see you again, man.
Yeah, you guys have a great one. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Talk
Have a
to you
good day.
later. You know, Daddy, when I first started, I'll never forget, I mentioned we did a WCCO TV show up on Leech Lake one time it was just phenomenal. But I'll never forget that the segment on the news started with, "It was cold and the auger won't start." So that's not been an issue.
Oh, those days are over. That's for sure.
Those days are over. One of those type of things, which is good. So, hey, our next guest tonight is Amy Munsinger. She's with Wham. But what's interesting about Amy? Look at that. Chad put you up so fast.
I am.
It put you so fast. That's amazing. Amy, give us a little bit of background. I know you've been fishing tournaments for a number of years. What are some of the tournament circuits you've been fishing? And what is it about tournament fishing that really is something that you like so much?
I actually started probably about 6 years ago. It's called the UPL, which is the Ultimate Pan Fishing League. I started with one of my girlfriends, and I didn't know a thing, really. I just knew how to fish, but not how aggressively they are. And so I just been over the circuit for about 5 years. This year, I'm not going to be doing it. I'm giving it up this year just because I've got other obligations going on. But I've been doing that, and then I just been doing all kinds of tournaments locally. It seems like I'm the only female out on some of these tournaments, these bigger tournaments, and I would love to see other women out there. But it's been a crazy learning experience. I swear, it's educational. I really like it.
White, one of the reasons, and I know I've heard this from many people that are members of WHAM, Women Anglers of Minnesota, that ice fishing is really a reason that they enjoy fishing or got into fishing. What is it about ice fishing that women seem to really gravitate to that versus, say, open water fishing?
I guess one thing with open water fishing, you have to have a boat, and if you don't own a boat, you can't really get out to the middle of the water. You can shore fish, whereas ice fishing, you have that opportunity to be able to walk out to your spots out in the middle of the lake. Versus not having a machine, just have a little more accessibility, I think. And that's kind of one reason why I did ice fishing, is I didn't have a boat and I had more opportunity to get out.
So you're on a number of pro staffs. I know you were involved in the Shields Big Ice Fest last week. What are some of the companies you're working with right now?
Right now I work with Clam. I've been working with Vexilar, Tuned Up Custom Rods, Shields, what else? Relevant Sunglasses. Sorry, just a couple of companies. I really enjoy them.
That's awesome. So one of the things that the tournaments you've been involved with are live bait is a no-no. So you've been fishing a lot of soft plastics. Tell me, what was the experience maybe starting off with soft plastics versus live bait? Was it a big learning curve for you? What are some of your favorite baits? And what are some of your tips for actually fishing soft plastics?
Actually, I always knew just everyone basic, hook and a minnow. That's what you would fish with. And when you went into tournament fishing, you can't use live bait. So I had no choice to learn plastic. And in learning how the fish react to them. Same thing with colors. Everyone's always talking about colors. Well, you have to figure out what color, that lake is, or, if it's stained or clear water, you had to figure out, exactly what those fish are going to want. My favorite plastic, actually, they just kind of came out with is from Clam, which was Naniku's. And, fish love bugs, and that's what they go for. And they came out with a line that mimic larvae and flies, basically. And they really have an action to them that looks natural versus, some of these plastics, you just kind of put them in and they don't really have a whole lot of movement. And I just really feel that they have a replicate of a bug in the water. I just actually was out yesterday. I was super excited. I made it out, and I tried the difference between, again, I used a waxy, and we got some hit, but I ended up using a plastics, and I had more outcome, more fish with my plastics. I think it just gives more of a natural flow versus just a straight jig and a waxy.
Yeah.
One thing
Danny, I know you fish a lot of plastics. What is your favorite? When do you go with them? What sizes are you using?
Honestly, really anything. I think soft plastics are just kind of a lot better and more efficient to use, especially nowadays in the world of forward-facing sonar and finding fish and trying to stay in front of them. But I mean, like she was saying, any bug-shaped fish or really any sort of minnow shape bait really seems to be key. But what I was going to ask her and what I've noticed is, kind of with soft plastics, I have found myself having to kind of slow down because I feel like since I have a soft plastic, I have to fish it, a lot more action or something. But I think with a soft plastic, we actually have to learn to kind of slow down and understand that it's still doing the work, without us fishing it too erratic. So do you find that to be the case with soft plastics where you almost have to kind of slow down and not jig it as much as you would think you have to, I guess?
Well, again, you have to figure out what the fish want. Do they want a fast action? Do they want a slow action? Fine example was yesterday. I was fishing actually too fast, and my plastic, it's like this, and they're not actually seeing like the tail. So you slowed it down and give it a little more finesse, and I had more hook sets than that. But again, it's what the fish are looking for. They might not want any movement. They might just want to sit there and just naturally flow, kind of like a minnow, on a dead stick. So, you got to figure out exactly what they're going to hit.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Yeah. I really like it when they have a tail that's got an action to it. I don't know if you can kind of see.
Yeah.
When you're in that water, that's what they see. And they think it's, it's a bug. It's a minnow tail. And I do also believe that you don't have to have just the full bait, just use that the whole time. And yeah, you can reuse this bait, many times. You could keep the full one. If you think it's too big of a profile, you could always break it in half and just add that just right to your hook too. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of hard to show. Just add just a little, not as big as a profile. Another thing too, I would say about plastics, a lot of people say you got to use little ones or, big ones don't work. Well, I don't believe that. I think sometimes if you give them a bigger profile, it's not always bigger fish. I do catch 9, 10, 11 inch crappies on a bigger, like a 1 3/4 inch plastic. So again, I think it's really efficient. Economically too, because how many times you go get a scoop of minnow and you come home and you forget about them in the garage and you just spent $10 on them.
That's
when you
happened to me.
whole bag,
Yeah.
or you forget the puck of waxies in your pocket, so $4 worth. So, plastic you can use many, many times over.
Yeah. 100%. And you're just so efficient. I mean, we were just talking to Nick about augers and, talking about we've got the how far ice fishing has come in the last few years. And there was a comment that came through about soft plastics and how far they've came in 5 years. You just think of the efficiency that we have, fishing outside and the rods that we use. You talk about tuned up custom rods and, all just the actions that they have, the baits that we have, and just being efficient. And part of it is just getting a bait. Doesn't even necessarily matter what it is sometimes in front of those fish. And nowadays we're able to kind of follow the fish and stay on the active fish versus just sitting in a house and waiting for them to come to us. So I think
absolutely,
really where soft plastics kind of shine nowadays is they're just so efficient.
Well, also too, I would say real fast that, I'm a big, huge, all my friends know I'm a big, huge pinhead. Clam has that. And I don't use bait. We don't use meat we don't even put anything on it. And the fact is that, I can go a whole day without using bait and even a plastic. I mean, I caught my personal best without crappie, without bait on a pinhead. So, plastics, no bait, minnows, it's just kind of what the fish are looking for.
It's funny you say that. I got two good buddies of mine, Josh and Derek, great ice fishermen. Steve knows them very well. And it's like we'll go fishing and we'll go crappie fishing and they're literally using like big spoons with no bait. And every time it's almost like it almost pains me to think that we're not putting a minnow head on those spoons, but they'll outfish me 10-1 without bait. And it's really more about the presentation and being on the active fish. So, I mean,
They would outfish you with bait anyway.
yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
But you know what? I've fished against a couple of people, and we use the same bait, same lure, same everything, and we'd be in a hole right next to each other, and it doesn't matter. It's just how your cadence is. Just the same thing like at a tournament. I mean, I could be back to back to somebody, and I'll be wheeling them in, and they can't catch one. So, I think again, how the plastic is presented and how the cadence is. Especially it has to stay horizontal for sure. The presentation of that, you want that plastic to do its job.
You know, it's funny. I differ from both of you in terms of plastics. I like having, say, I'll typically go with a tungsten jig, especially, and I really like horizontal presentations with plastics, probably because I like the Berkley Mayfly. If you haven't fished that bait, I've caught literally thousands of fish on that bait. And I like it. I like fishing them a little more aggressively. I like when they swim up and glide, and that bait does that really well. But one of the things that I learned early on is line choice affects bait action much more than people realize. And everybody says, well, you got fluorocarbon, it's invisible, doesn't matter. Well, it's not the impact of the visibility of the line. It's actually the impact on how the bait rides or moves in the water. And that's one of those things that I think is underappreciated. And one of the things when you start seeing underwater with underwater cameras, what your presentation looks like. If you want to be a better angler, I don't care if you're fishing tournaments or you just want to go out and catch a mess of fish, drop a camera down there, an AquaView or whatever, and watch your presentation and see what does this do to the bait? What does this do? What does this not position do? What line, what's the impact of the line and the colors? And I think you'll find that plastics or live bait can make a huge difference in your success rate on that.
Oh, absolutely. Even like when you drill your first hole and you want to put your bait in, just before you even drop it down, see how your line is. You can tell. I mean, I usually use 3 pounds. I will go down to 2 quite a bit just because of how light my jig will have to be. But I put that in the water first just to see how that presentation is. And also too, a plastic 101 times, you have to put it on I want to say properly, because if not, it's going to, lay a certain way. And that's one reason why I say right away, when you put that in the hole, see how that's laying in the water. Because if it's laying a certain way, those fish know that it doesn't look okay. It looks different. Something's not right.
We'll even preload soft plastics onto jigs before we go out for the day, just because when your hands are freezing and it's cold outside, you sometimes put that bait on, you'll get it crooked. So, if these are kind of some of the actions, some of the baits and plastics I want to use, I'll preload them before I even go out on the ice that day.
Oh, it was cold yesterday, minus 14 wind chill. It was pretty cold putting plastics on.
Yeah.
Amy, I want to just switch up real quick. If somebody is interested in getting involved more in WAM, talk a little bit about how do you join and why are you a member?
Women Anglers of Minnesota.com or .org, I should say, and they could go on and look under memberships. Actually, they will be at the St. Paul show this coming weekend, which I will be there this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I got involved, I would say, again, right in the beginning of my ice tournament stuff. We did our first ice tournament there, and I'm not kidding you. I came in 18th place with 0.38 ounce of hurt. And I had no clue. I mean, and from that point, I saw the camaraderie of women, and I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to learn. I didn't have a father figure growing up, and my son was in a high school bass team real fast, and then I decided I wanted to be a fisher person. I wanted to learn how to fish. So I got into bass fishing quite a bit, and I did a lot of tournaments with some friends with that during the summer, but I really enjoy being out on that ice, just the peacefulness, just the challenge to find those fish. Just earlier, one of the guys had said earlier, Donnie, I like to stay away from people. I like to take a lake and break it down and find my own and not go where everybody else is. Because once you pull up a fish, you know how it is. They all, and so sometimes I'll fake it. Like I pull a big fish up. And so I wanted, as a female and being part of WAM, I wanted to teach other women how to do that too, and especially kids. Because our youth is our future of our industry, which, half of them are at home playing electronics. But I like to get them out and enjoy that. So I decided to join it and be part of it.
So what booth are you going to be at in St. Paul?
And I'll be at Clam and Friday and Saturday in Vexlar on Sunday.
Oh, so everybody stop by, say hi to Amy, and thank her for being on tonight. Hey, we appreciate your time tonight. Have a great season this year.
Yeah, thanks you guys.
Yeah, have a
Thank
good night.
you. You know, Danny, it's funny. I had Greg Fisher lined up from Vados Bait. I think he was having issues with his connection tonight. I really wanted to get into live bait as well on the back end of the plastics piece. And they have a great, if you guys are looking to buy bait in bulk, Vados actually has a great website. You can buy everything from freshwater shrimp to maggots and even frozen herring and smelt if you're going up tip-up fishing. So I think that's pretty awesome. The other thing is, I don't know if I ever told you this story, Danny. I was in the World Ice Fishing Championships in Finland the first year we ever had it. And one of the competitors from Russia was fishing my section. He moved in shallow, and I saw him catch a fish, and it was like that long. He had 38 fish, weighed 83 grams. He was catching basically fatheads. And the bite was so tough that he actually placed in the tournament because of his 83 grams or his 38 fish. It was pretty amazing.
So that's how you learned how to do that.
It's kind of funny. Hey, we're going to be giving away some great prizes tonight, and Chad has been over there. I've been watching him on. You guys can't see him on the monitor, but he's figuring stuff out. He's looking through stuff, and basically, we have 3 people registered for the Garmin LiveScope Plus system that we're giving away at the end of the show 6.
LiveScope Plus qualifiers for tonight. Amy. It should be Schultz. I misspelled it. It's ULDT. Amy, you know who you are. Jason Miller and Alexander Q were drawn as qualifiers for the LiveScope Plus. Razr Auger, we added 2 more names tonight. So the Razr Auger qualifiers ended up being Justin Edwards, Adam Cladivo, sorry if I say it wrong, Jeremiah Johnson, and Lynn Lifeson. And out of those 4, the name drawn for the winner is Lynn Lifeson. So
Lynn, congratulations.
Yep, PM Steve, all of you who win, PM Steve, and we will get we'll get that stuff out to you now. The Berkley.
Hold on, Chad. Lynn, what I'm going to need from you is your shipping address, and if you want an 8-inch auger or a 6-inch auger, and then send me your shipping information. I'll share that with Nick, and he'll get an auger out in the mail here quickly. So with the season coming up, congratulations on that.
Berkley Tackle Pack. Again, you heard a lot about these baits tonight, and I mean, I couldn't. I tried to draw my own name, but I couldn't. But the winner tonight, Laura Wagner, wins the Berkley Tackle Pack. So Laura, get your information to Steve via personal message, and we'll get that out. And then the last would be our Fish Monkey socks. And also, these things are fantastic.
Yeah.
And Anthony Torres is going to have the warmest feet of anybody here tonight because he won the Fish Monkey socks. So, Anthony, get your information PM'd over to Steve, and we'll get those socks shipped out. Nice toasty.
Anthony, we're going to be giving away a pair of the Yeti socks. That's the heavyweight socks, which are dynamite. They're merino wool, and they're going to blow you away. I'm just going to make sure you send me your foot size so I can get to the right ones shipped to you on that. So it'll be awesome. Hey, everybody, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We've got a great show coming up next Sunday again. Shane Dubois is coming in. He's going to talk to us a little bit about Western fishing, and the rest of the guests I'm going to keep secret till next week, but we've got a loaded lineup that should be a lot of fun. And anytime you get it to hang out with Danny online anyway, it's worth it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, Chad, when Amy was shaking that bait, you know, it reminded me of Danny's heart every time he sees a white-tailed deer.
Right. Yeah.
That's fun. Well, everybody, hey, thanks. Congratulations to the winners tonight. Thanks for joining us tonight. Chad, the comment line blew up again. Did we have a total on that at all?
Crazy. You know, I don't have the total in front of me, Steve, but I since I started giving away prizes, there's 60 new comments. So, I mean, you know, it's hundreds and hundreds, and it's fantastic.
It is fantastic. And everybody have a great start to the season. There's fishable ice probably where you live right now. So get out, catch some fish, and have some fun. And we'll see you guys all next week. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.